Welcome to what will be a very interesting conversation centering around the Koinange family, which traces its roots to way back in the 1860s. We are here in the heart of Koinange land in Kiambaa. This land right here actually belongs to my mother. And we're very grateful for her to have given us the opportunity to interview what we all call our family's spokesman, the last born son of Senior Chief Koinange Wabiyo. His name is Leonard Karoga Koinange. He is a walking, talking encyclopedia of knowledge. And you need to listen in to find out the history of this family. But before that, my own mother, who grew up in a village called Gedega, about maybe 10, 15 kilometers from here, and was married into the Koinange family. Back in 1959, had 4 children, but her husband died soon after independence. And she's here to welcome us to this piece of land and this interview. You know, I call it Nyinawa Munene or Nyinawa Kabaka.
I welcome you all to this place. As Jeff said, I was married in 1959 on December 12th. Unfortunately, my husband died on 7th March 1966, when Jeff was only 2 months and the only son, the last born. I had 3 other children. Shiro was 4+. Koi was 2+. Koinange, my first son, was 1+. It was very, very difficult. I was only 28. But I thank God that I have survived. It wasn't easy, but we have survived. Koinange family, many people know, they really suffered. My husband, Frederick Bio Koinange, his mother was the 3rd wife of Koinange Senior Chief. He was detained for 7 years. All my mother-in-law's children were all detained, including, remember, Kiambaa MP Paul Koinange. Dad was also detained, who was my brother-in-law. We all suffered. There was one sister, Lillian, who died at the committee because she was refused to go to hospital. Koinange family, especially my own house, that's Senior Chief Koinange's dad house. My mother-in-law was called Joyce Kagedo Koinange. She was detained for 7 years. All his children were all detained. Anyway, we fought for it. As you make it, the bed, you'll have to try on it. What else can we do? We have suffered, but we rejoice because God kept us. We have suffered. This Jeff Koinange, who is always on TV calling Jeff Koinange, he was only 2 months when his dad died. It's by God's grace that he survived.
Thank you, Omanene. And thank you for welcoming us to your homestead. And we're going to talk now with Uncle Leonard. We call him Uncle Leonard, to tell us a history of our family, where we came from, what the Koinange family achieved, and of course, what's most important, their place in history. Where does it lie? And the interview will be conducted by Dr. Boyi Wagasha, a renowned scholar and economist, and he'll be taking us through the whole process so that we can know where exactly we came from, and of course, most importantly, where we're going. as a family, as a unit, because there's many of us. There's so many Koinange. There's more than 600 Koinanges out there. And many of us and people outside don't know our history. We need to learn it. We need to know it. We need to appreciate it. And that's what we're going to do going forward. Sawa. Nigu.
Nini tigo.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Mbui Wagasha, formerly the chairman of the Central Bank of Kenya, and after that, senior economic advisor at the office of the president with Uhuru. And before that, I worked internationally with the African Development Bank and many other places. In Geneva for 6 years. I might seem in this session to have strayed from my calling, but we have a very, very, very important story to tell about the Koinange family. I'll be talking to Karuga Koinange, who is the last-born son of Senior Chief Koinange, who is famous in the socio-political affairs of Kenya. And that is the story that we want to tell today. And we hope to fill the gaps. There are many gaps. We want to fill that story so that the entire country knows where we are coming from. Thank you very much. And without much ado, I would like to start by introducing Karuga Koinange, and he will be taking us through the story and the gaps that remain to be told in the story of Kenya's path to independence. Many, many years before many of you were born, many, many years before I was born. So without much ado, I would like to start by enlightening the story of the start of the Koinange family. We would like to see Karuga Koinange take us through the early life of the man who became an epic leader of the Kenyan political push for independence. The early life of Senior Chief Koinange. Karuga, please, can you take us through the early life of Senior Chief Koinange, the man who became the paramount chief, Senior Koinange?
Koinange family stems from the Koinange himself. Koinange is son of Bio, and Bio is son of Gekonyo, and Gekonyo is son of Gadesha. Gadesha brought in Jono, so we are Bare Ajuno. Jono and his son Gekonyo, they came in from Muranga, just like all the Kikuyus in Kiambu. They came from Muranga, from Gatanga. In fact, his father, Mogwe, Magua, was son of Mogwe. And Mogwe came from a place called Jiko. Jiko is part of where Mbari Agashiko came from. The 9 girls of the Kikuyu in the Gadanga, Mkoroe wa Gadaga. So when Jono came in to Mangu with his family, the story goes that they had a very good rongo. Rongo is which produces gourds. And I think there was some, it was very good that there was some jealous. So the people decided that they move out from Murang'a. So they came to a place, Mangu. In fact, White Sisters, where the White Sisters are, all the land from White Sisters down to where River Chania and River Athi meets, that was land of Jono. And so White Sisters came and took their land there, and Jono then moved Riara. They were saying in Kamete because the big river was Kamete. They crossed Kamete and they came to Riara. So when they came to Riara, they were staying between Kiambu town and where the Riara itself springs, which is somewhere near Rimuru. All that land also became land of, Jono bought that land from the Dorobo. And they stayed there. And in that land, that is where Koinange was born. He was born in a place, now they call it Kawaida. It used to be a Mzungu farm called Broom Hill. And that's where Koinange was born. They were also moved out from Riara, from Broom Hill, when the Mzungu came and they chased out Koinange, and Koinange came here as a Mohoi. Mohoi is Kikuyu. They used to go to somebody's land and you are allowed to build and stay there. He came here as a Mohoi. This land where we are belonged to Amboi, Abariadobe, and they gave Koinange a place to build. And afterwards, he started buying this land, and now he became a landowner, Koinange himself. So when he came here, he had only 3 wives. The first wife was Maria Mwamboi, the second wife, Njuria Njeri, and a third wife, Joyce Kagendo. And Joyce is now the mother of Mrs. Mbiu, is mother of Mary Mbiu.
Okay. When they arrived in Mangu from Murang'a, and then occupied their land, started life in Riara, were there white settlers?
No,
It seems there is a story that out of the kindness of landowners in that area, out of that kindness to settlers, there came attention about the ownership of land that begins from there. Can you enlighten us on?
No, when Koinange was now this land where we are, before he came here, the land between Riara River and now the road going to Nazareth Hospital, that road, that land was their land.
Okay.
And when the first Mzungu came, the first Mzungu to come for them to see was Count Tereki. Count Tereki had come on business. He was looking for ivory. And he crossed from Fort Smith up to where the River Riara came from. That's where the grandfather of Koinange had a house, Kadesha.
Kaya sharagia Count Tereki ucio muthunguri. Kaya sharagia njogu kundu gutari njogu.
Goko kwayo ire jogu.
Okay.
Yeah. There were a lot of elephants. This land was full of animals. So there was a lot of people, in fact, people had a lot of ivory. And when you get an ivory, they believed if you keep it at home, it will run away.
Okay.
That's what they believed. So they used to put a muramba a stem of banana at the top on where the ivory had been cut, so it doesn't grow, it doesn't run away.
Okay.
So there so many people had kept their own ivory at home. So there was a lot of elephant.
Okay.
Yeah. So when he came here, he was looking for ivory, and in fact they used to sell to go and sell to Ukambani. There are some people who from Arabs used to come and buy. So it was not new that somebody's coming for ivory. They knew people would come and buy ivory.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was ivory. And so when Count Tereki came, he made an oath with Gadesha, now the grandfather of Koinange, that he would be like defended. They would not fight him because any new person would be. So, but not long when he crossed Liara to Dumberi, the sons of Bio, they started the war with him. In fact, Count Tereki was I mean, in the business, I think there was something, and they started a fight. Count Tereki had soldiers who he had come with, and they killed 46 of Koinange's brothers here in Dumberi. Okay. So, and of course, he went out, he didn't come back this way. He crossed over. So Koinange, when the other Wazungu came, they were friendly. And just like any other person from Muranga would come and be given a place to build, they gave the Wazungus places to build. And Koinange is saying, before Koinange moved from there, there were about 10 houses. Some near Tigoni, some across Dumberi, some in his own land. There were some people who were, there were about 10 houses. Yeah.
Kwoguo ihinda riu maikarite mena thayu gutiai na mathina settlers na andu airu aria mari ene migunda.
Gutiari thina no mati gutiari thina tondu noigua when Mzungu came, he was looking for a leader. And to be a leader, that time in Kikuyu, leadership was because you are a landowner, Mwadhi. Mwadhi. So people like Waiyaki became strong because he's a Mwadhi of a big land. People like Mwangombe in Nyeri, he became popular because he was a leader of a big land. So Koinange, Gadesha was now the steward, the Muramati of a big land of Jono. So when Mzungu came and he would ask, who is in charge of this area? The in charge is the leader of that land. And that is the one of the biggest problems Mzungu didn't understand. Like when they came to Waiyaki, Waiyaki is only in charge of their land. He's not at the Alura of Kiambu. But they would expect the agreement they have made with Waiyaki to spill over to other people.
To apply to other people.
Yeah, which is, it couldn't happen. Because Waiyaki, if he gives a Mzungu permission to stay in their land, is only in Waiyaki's land. He cannot cross the river and go to somebody else's land and say, I've been given permission by Waiyaki. Because Waiyaki, that other land is not the owner. But the Waiyaki had a big land from Dagureti all the way to Fort Smith. All that land belonged to Waiyaki family. Yeah.
Let's come to Koinange the adult. He has 3 wives, as you say. And then he becomes the clan leader. What kind of responsibilities did he exercise?
Koinange got circumcised in the age group of Kienjeku. The Kienjeku age group was circumcised after Jenga, Jenga age group. And Jenga is the same age group, is the same name as Bera. If you hear somebody is called from Bera, is the same as Jenga. So, and the way Kikuyu had organized their age group, they were organized that there will be 9 age group and another 9, and now the 18 age groups become a generation.
Okay.
So after the ninth generation, after the 9th age groups get circumcised, you break for 9
That's a generation.
Yeah, when after you circumcise the 9th group, these people get circumcised. Maybe after 2 years, another one. After 1 year, another one. After 9 generation, then you break for 9 seasons. And a season in Kikuyu, in here in Kiambu, the season is 6 months, sort of a season. 1 year had 2 seasons. Jahe and Mwere. So you break for 9 seasons. So Koinange, when Bera got circumcised, it was the 9th group.
Okay.
So there has to be a break of 9 seasons. So Koinange, when they were getting circumcised, they were big boys. They were more than 25 years old.
Okay.
They were more than 25 years old. So Koinange became a leader because they are being circumcised as grown up.
Okay.
So he became a leader of the Kienjeku age group. And he's also a leader because now his land, which used to be, now Mbio was the Muramati. Now Koinange becomes a Muramati. So he's also a land leader. He's a Mwadhi. He's the owner. Mwadhi means the ruler. He's ruling a piece of land. So he gave Koinange. He had given already Wazungu some places to build, and they were friends. So in fact, the story is saying that Koinange, when the people were going to the First World War, a Mzungu left his animals to Koinange.
Okay.
Because Koinange already had given them a place to build. And they said they were left there to look for his cows, goats. And then Mzungu went for the war. And when he had gone, that's when Koinange discovered that he is not a landowner anymore. Because the goats he was looking after across the river here, the other side we call Dumberi. Dumberi is of the family of Bale Aigi. Bale Aigi is where the first wife came from. She's son of Kihara. Kihara being the son of now the family across the river. So the goats he was looking after, Akinambio, who are now the boys looking after the goats, they allowed the goats to go across because where they are going belongs to theirs, to their uncle, to their grandfather Kihara and their uncles. So Mzungu, who had been given land across
by Baria Kihara,
by the Kihara, Baria Igi, he took. Now he caught all the goats. He took them to Kiambu. These goats were trespassing my land. Koinange was charged 50,000 rupees. Okay. Then after some time he paid. After some time they went again. He was told, they have another 60 rupees. So Koinange decided, no, I'll have to move out from this place. So he came here. And when he came here, he was allowed to build about 600 meters from here. He built his house first there. In fact, where he was, he had started a church. The Wazungus had come with Christianity. He had his Dhingira was being a church. So when he came here, he first built a church. And when he came here, now he's coming to be a beggar. Muhoi,
Eh.
because of the landowners here. The landowners who owned this land, Bariawaruige, they owned this land across up to near Ruda. So they allowed him. He called them. The Geshore family they live in Gadanga. They came, and the Koinange was shown where to build. You have to be given.
Ruoka Muhoi.
Okay, Muhoi and Muhoi Shibo. Because where he's working, he's a Nyavara. Near the Keto Neadongo, to be a Nyavara. And being a Nyavara, he's also a chief. But he getting one salary of Nyavara because Muzungu cannot pay him as a chief and pay him as Nyavara. So he was getting one salary. So he still was here and going to work in the settled area for Muzungu. Then he stayed. He started now buying from the family here. He started buying now this land we are on. He bought land. Yeah. And when he bought, he moved the church. He had built a church in Ite. They were calling it Ite. Ite is where the river streams from. And he moved the church. He built this house. His house.
The house in front of us.
Yeah. He built the house and a church. In 1920, he spent 1,978 rupees to build this house and to build the church. Because he wrote it, he wrote it somewhere that he spent that money. And this house, this church, the wives were carrying now the wood and the stone by
on their backs.
On their back. Wood from there was a Muzungu who had a sawmill called Nightingale. They used to go there. They were calling it Nightingale. Then he built the house and he built the church. And he stayed there with, and you know when he was chased out, he came with his family. So all the time he kept on remembering that his land is
somewhere else.
Is somewhere else. He knew Mzungu had chased him from his own land. And I think by doing that, they made him become a politician. He was not a politician. But from 1919 to up to his detention, he was a politician because of his land. Yeah.
Well, in 1921, he becomes a headman. 1921.
Not 1921.
And then 1938, he becomes a senior chief.
No, not 19. Mbio was a chief in 1905.
Okay.
Koinange's father. In 1908, and Koinange was a headman. In 1905. In 1908, he became a chief.
Okay.
He praised Mbio.
Okay.
He praised Mbio. But you see, now he's a chief without, he's not gazetted until later. Yeah. Although he was now the chief. The Wazungu, when they want workers, come to chief.
Yeah.
In fact, the Muzungu who was, because now this land was taken by a company, a big company from past Dumberi. In fact, Koinange thought they have gone up to Eldoret. They thought all that land is there because he didn't know the end of Muzungu land. He was saying just one company is owning all that land. And 10 families are put just in a small land. You know,
been moved into...
Yeah, we are put together into a small land. So he was very bitter. Now, when Mzungu, who was a manager just across here, he came to Koinange because he had told people to Usheha the trees, which are the boundaries. And now, the people he asked them to trim, they cut the trees down, and the trees belongs to Koinange. So Mzungu didn't know what to do, but still he gave him their own strength, and he came to Koinange. He came and told him, Koinange, don't know, they were talking Swahili. I asked my people to trim the tree, and they have cut them down. So Koinange said, "Oh, what did you tell them?" So they said, he knew his language breakdown. They didn't understand what they were told. So Koinange told him, it's okay.
Okay.
I mean, the trees are cut. It's okay. So after some time, not long after that, that same Muzungu came. He came with a gunia of tins. He brought to Koinange. He told him, Koinange, your people, I usually pay them at the end of the week. And I was paying them. You bring, how many, of course, Koinange knew the process. You bring the tin, I give you the money. And now the tins, I have paid so much. And now there are so many tins left, and I don't have money. And according to me, these tins were not mine. So your people have managed to cut the same tin like I have.
Okay.
So what do I do? So Muzungu was saying, now I don't know what to tell the owners. I'm also employed. So Koinange told him, how much tins worth do you have? I don't know. It was less than 500. So he told him, keep them there, come tomorrow. So when he came, Koinange went to his own account and withdrew money and gave the Muzungu to go and pay. To go and pay now. So after some time, in 1950s, 53, the news is Koinange is detained. He's detained by Muzungu. That Muzungu who knew now Koinange. They say he actually bought a megaphone in Britain. And in London City, he was shouting, Muzungu, you are very unfair. If you can detain Koinange, I have never seen such a trustworthy person. I have never seen somebody like this. Now he was telling those stories, what happened to him.
The true man.
The true man.
Who Koinange was.
Yeah. So he had so many things. He was very friendly to Wazungu. But he still could not forget that they took his land. He could not forget. In the church one, Koinange, I've told you, the Muzungu who came, another manager in another firm called Juno. The manager who was there, he brought in an Arab, they were calling him Mutweri, who was a Christian. So he started teaching Koinange the Bible. And Koinange learned the Bible with his second wife, and the second wife's sister, and the husband of the second wife. And Koinange brought in a brother. So the five of them, they started the first church in Jono, where they were in.
Okay.
So that church, when they were coming here, that's why he had to build a church, because he didn't want that to go. That Muzungu lost the job here. They went to Kijabi. So he went with the people who were teaching Koinange. So Koinange asked the second wife to bring in his stepfather called Matenjwa, Joshua Matenjwa, to be now their teacher, to teach them the Christianity. So they continued teaching them Christianity. And now Joshua Matenjwa was from Scotland Church, the Scotland Mission in Kikuyu. The Muzungu was, the man who was teaching Koinange, first one, was from Inland Mission. They had gone to Kijabi to Inland Church. So Koinange became an Inland first, then he became a Scotland Church. And now the group which was going, Koinange had even his daughters now, people like Isabella, the first daughter, Lydian Wairimo, the second daughter, others, Edith Wanjiko, the third daughter, they were all going to school in Kikuyu. And when they were going, they would find people who were saying, oh, you are going to Kikuyu to learn Bible. Yeah, there is another school here.
It's right here.
Right here. To go to Kikuyu is about 30 kilometers from here.
Yes.
And now Kabete is about 20 kilometers. So they went to Kabete. And surely it's the same thing. You know, they didn't know the difference. In Kabete, the teacher there was Geteru. They were calling him Geteru because of his beard. He was Ricky. And now Ricky said, oh, you don't have to be coming here. If the whole group, you are coming from you're coming from Kiambaa, I'll be coming there. So he came here. Koinange built him a house to sleep in. When he was teaching, after some time, you go back and the whole group will go for maybe baptism or anything. So, so Koinange was very serious in Christianity. So when he bought this land, he built, I told you, he built a church there. And even that church, he built another church. And when he was detained, when he was taken to detention, he gave his son a letter that he can withdraw all the money he wants to build a stone house church. So the stone building, most of the money was Koinange's.
Riu haria tukinyitie ri ni twanyita Koinange riu muthuri highly respected na maundu anyitite na hinya muno mashashi nginya kwiyakira ni atuo senior chief na advisor wa DC wa Kiambu. So he's doing well in the church, he's doing well in the administration of the British government. No ninge ena his political grievances ya kuruira maundu ma migunda ya andu iru na mugunda wake we mwenyewe. How hathire atia?
Now in 1919 hari undu wekikire. Something happened. Let me first of tell you about Stefano. Stefano Kinyajui. Stefano Kinuthia. Stefano Kinuthia was the first Kikuyu to go to Britain.
Okay.
Stefano was he was staying with the Riki family. When the Riki family came, they bought the Riki family, the Stefano, the Mudemba family. They were from Tinganga. They went to Kivesheko. They stayed a bit in Kivesheko, and they found land in Kabete. So they went and bought land from the Drobo. They bought a big chunk of land. So when the Riki family came, they actually asked the Mudemba family to sell them a piece of their land. They sold a very small piece. But the other piece was taken over by the government. That time by Mzungu. To that time, there was no Mzungu or the government. They took most of it. But before, now the Stefano, the Riki family, they decided to take Stefano to Britain.
Okay.
So he can fine-tune his English to come and help Riki translate the Bible into Kikuyu.
Okay.
And he went there. And when he came back, that time the courts were busy with the Kikuyus having some cases. So Stefano became an interpreter in the court.
Okay.
And now, I mean, the idea of him interpreting the Bible is like being killed by him being an interpreter in the court.
It was sidelined.
It was sidelined. So they decided to send somebody else to go in Britain and come back and be an interpreter. So that was the Ricky idea. So they sent Idongo, Ismail Idongo. Idongo went and he came to be an interpreter. And when Idongo, I mean, that family was learned, they knew English and all that. And when Idongo, this is a different story, but it also concerns our Koinange family. When Idongo was interpreting in the court, in fact, interpreters were feared. You go to the court and you can see an African talking to the judge in English. Everybody, it made people even want to learn English to be like Idongo. So when Idongo was interpreting, that's when Bio was supposed to go to America. So Bio was told by his father, go and call our friends in Kabete so we can celebrate, and you go. So Bio took a bicycle. He's going to Nairobi, come up to Kabete and call his friends. When he went to Nairobi, he was arrested. He was riding a bicycle without license. So
Sent by his father.
Sent by his father. So, and they knew now Idongo. In fact, Idongo and Buta and Bio, if you see them in their old age, they look the same. They look like brothers. Idongo and Buta, James Buta, and Bio. So Idongo talked to Bio, told him, now when you come to court, now you have to go and answer charges of riding a bicycle without license. Don't even listen to what the judge is saying, because you will not even understand. At the end of the story, the judge will ask you, guilty or not guilty? You are going to say, not guilty, my lord. Then after you say that, you don't already, he's from Britain, I know what I'll say. And you'll be released. So, even in the morning of the same day of the court, Idongo asked Bio, you remember what I told you? Yeah, what are you going to say? Not guilty, my lord. Fine. So they went to court. They read the charges. And the judge, you know, about those judges, guilty or not guilty? Bio said, guilty, my lord. After all that practice, he was fined 5 shillings. So they paid the fine. That time is when Bio was going to. Bio that time already had gone to Baxon School. And he's in Alliance. Now he's going from Alliance to Britain. And of course, Bio going to America. It was such a, it was like a big thing in Kikuyu land. Everybody, I was telling people, Koinange, you are throwing your son. How can you let your son go to unknown? Koinange said, let us try. Yeah, so when Bio came back, everybody was telling their children, Mudome Tabiu. And now the children were also telling their father, Dhomithia Tabiu.
Yeah, okay.
So it was a big thing, and people were, of course, it was so encouraging that Bio had become the first MA degree in Kenya. So I was telling you, in 1919, now that family, the Stefano Kinodia family, their land, Mudhemba family, they wanted to take a part of that land. There is an approved school there in Kabete, you know that. Whoever was in charge of the approved school wanted to cut more, to get more land. And they were left with about 60, less than 70 acres. They wanted that land. So now Ricky, being a family friend, advised them, what you are going to do, you are going to write a petition. Make sure we cable it to Britain and see what they say. And when they cabled it, the petition, it worked. There was a ruling from there, they should not take this Mudhemba's land more. They should not add. And that inspired Koinange so much. So we can write letters to the king and results is our land is not going to go. And that time already Koinange have started buying land here. And you see Muzungu want even to go more into this land. So they decided to start a party to be writing this. So they called the commission, the native commissioner. And they asked him to bring the governor in Dagoretti. And they went there. And they said, because they want to start a party. They started a Kikuyu party called Kikuyu Association. That was the political party. Before that, there was the party of Hariduku. And Hariduku, when there was another petition they had written, and Koinange said that he asked whoever was supposed to read, it was a Chief Karanja. He asked Karanja, don't read, let Hariduku is more learned. His English better. Let Hariduku read. So they gave the petition to Hariduku. And Hariduku went there, integrated again, waited for the governor. Governor didn't come in time. Hariduku went. You know, there were their tax. Still he left. And Koinange was hurt. He had gone with the petition. So later on, Koinange they have started their own party. And so Hariduku thought, I mean, it's like they are against the Hariduku one. But they were not, because when Hariduku was detained in 1922, when Hariduku was detained, people in Nairobi, they organized a demonstration. A very big demonstration. They went to the police station. Central Police Station was immediately opposite Norfolk Hotel, where there is the culture center. That's where the police station was. So they went, there was a demonstration, they went there. And the ladies, Akina Nyanjiro, they said, give us the trousers. If you cannot take Hariduku from the cells, we are going to do it. So there was an intelligence. They knew these people are going to demonstrate. So everybody, especially people in Kare and all that, those who they have just come back from war, the First World War. They had guns and all that. They were told there is this demonstration. So they came and camped in Norfolk. So when they started the first firing, they killed more than 700 people. They killed. And now they started hunting the organizers. Now the organizers, Akina Abdara Tairara, Hamisi, and other people, Akina Iganjo Dotono, Akina, all those, Mugekenyi was a cousin, Kikuyu, they are not cousins, half brother to Hariduku. They all came here. They were hiding. They were staying here with Joyce.
Okay.
Joyce was hiding.
Where we are now.
Yeah, Joyce was hiding them. She was the Mohiki of the senior chief, the youngest wife. She was hiding those people. So Mzungu will come and look for them, and he will come and ask Koinange questions. They are here, but Koinange will pretend he doesn't even know those things. And because they thought Koinange is against Ariduku, they would not expect them to be hiding here. But they were together. So Koinange started their political party. Something else happened the same 1919. From 1912 to 1919, the court in Githunguri, another court, there was another court somewhere in Kabete. The court, when you go to court, Kikuyu way, nafanya kesi, after we case with you, you say you are not satisfied, you call other people, they call them Adamaki, one from maybe Alanga, from somewhere else, from Banana. They come and listen, but the one who listened first, they'll still be there. They'll brief how the case was. So when those people are coming, you bring Adenge. Because if you still not satisfied, you are going to swear an oath. So that day, they'll bring Adenge and I'll bring Adenge. We are kissing with you. That's how it was. And when they are listening, of course, people, men of Boridato, they'll go to Dudu.
Yes.
And they Dudu, they'll ask you questions and ask the people who are giving evidence. So it was like that in Kikuyu. And now these people, Koinange, I told you have already had a church here in his compound. He had built a bigger church there. Now, it's very bad to kurigadege for a Christian. Kurigadege was a very unchristian, let me say
according to the Christians.
According to the Christian, it was not, because you swear with, there were so many things you did. So they didn't like that. So Koinange, they made a petition. And they called the governor again in Dagoretti, and they told him this is what is happening to our people. And the Christians to us is wrong. We don't want to swear in this manner. So, in fact, Kurigadege, it was only for men. Because that dengue, they will remove, they remove the pancreas.
The pancreas
of the dengue.
Okay.
And they make a hole, you put your penis there, that's how you swear. So for Christian, they won't do that. Before you swear.
They won't accept that.
So the Koinange, and now he has got a very big people who are the crowd Christians. They are being asked to do that. So instead, even if it's the border, people have changed. He said that to remain. I mean, you won't do that. So Koinange, they called the governor and they told him things it's not for us. It's not for Christian. So what they did, Koinange and Jonjo, they were made to be in charge. They were put in the court to be in charge of CMS, Anglican Church. And Karanja, James, Philip Karanja was put in to be in charge, to represent the Scotland Church. And Warohio was put in to be in charge of the Gospel Church. That was a big breakthrough. Because now when you go to court, the people you are going to find there are Koinange. If you are Christian. So Koinange will not tell you to ringathenge. He'll tell you maybe to swear with the Bible. So it was a big breakthrough.
It was a big breakthrough.
It was a big breakthrough in Christianity and also into the Koinange now, who was now a Christian. So the four of them became the elders. Became part of the court. We were calling it Native Council. Now, the same thing happened in Murang'a. Somebody like Budhia and Kang'ethe, Joseph Kang'ethe and Budhia, they were, and somebody else, they were also put into the Native Council of Murang'a. And now when they were put in there, Kang'ethe had already started a political party. Because after 1922, in Norfolk, after what happened, they banned the Hariduku party. Hariduku was taken to Kismayo detention. He stayed there. In fact, I think they talked to him, or even when he came out, he didn't want politics anymore. They built him a house, they brought him, they gave him, so he didn't want any more politics. But now, Kang'ethe, they started a political party. James Kang'ethe in Nairobi. They were meeting in somebody's called James Njoroge's hotel. They were meeting there.
That's now the Murang'a.
The Murang'a. Even the party, they were calling it Central Kikuyu. Because Murang'a is in the central, between the southern Kiambu and northern Nyeri. So they were calling it Central Kikuyu Association. This is a Murang'a party. But because it's also being Murang'a, they want also to be in Nairobi. Because Murang'a, they want to know what is going on. So they were meeting in a hotel in Nairobi. James Njoroge's hotel was in Nairobi. So that's why they were meeting. So when they were meeting there, they started, now they said, the way they were sworn in to be now civil servants in the court in Murang'a, we are going to swear in people to join our party. So that is the first Muma, political Muma, which started in Murang'a. They were giving Muma in Murang'a to join their party, the Kikuyu Central Association. They started there, and even when they were in Nairobi, because Murang'a at that time had only 15 locations.
So this new movement from Murang'a begins the Muma.
They started now also in Nairobi, depending on which location you are, they are your leaders and they'll give you Muma, even Nairobi. And when they go home, they make arrangement for. So it became a big party, and they are taking Muma. And Muma, that time, is, although now is a bit advanced, you take a Bible and you take Muchanga, you put to your what do you call this? Navel. You put
on your navel.
Your navel, you put the Muchanga there. When they put the navel, the soil there, what they are doing, they are swearing with the soil. That those people who are in our soil know that we are swearing, we will get you out, because you are already colonized. The soil, the people, Muzungu have taken the land, and he have taken you with the land, because you are, our ancestors are in that land. Know that we are fighting for you. That's what. That's why they were.
That was the meaning.
That's what they were swearing. They were swearing now the soil here in the Nevo. Because Nevo is Rorera. Is where you have come from. Rorera. When Mutoto is born, they call it Rorera. So Rorera is what, and Rorera in Kikuyu is your mother side.
Yes.
Because you are Rorera, you are joined with the mother. That's why even in Kikuyu, uncles are very important. Because the year of your Rorera, of your mother. So they started that. And when that was going on, some people joined in that group of the Murang'a Association. Kenyatta, Jomo Kenyatta, and George Kirongothi. He was called George Dengwa Kirongothi. Kirongothi is a kiongozi. He was a kiongozi. So they called him Kirongothi. He's from Karura.
Yes.
When they joined, now the party started not being, it cannot be called Muranga anymore. It became now for the all Kikuyu.
Yes.
So they joined, and Kenyatta being what he sort of, he's more educated than Kang'ethe. Kang'ethe was a sergeant in the army. Kenyatta has been amesoma kidogo, so he became like he's now the one taking charge of the KCA. But Koinange is still having his party. Now, Koinange continued now agitating for the land or that. In 1931, Koinange was sent by the British government to Britain to go and tell the Azungu, we Africans, we are happy with the way things are. That was the aim. Because Koinange is a chief, they were sent with another chief from Western, Kapirodo, called Apindi, and another chief from Kambani, the three of them. And now, this other party, KCA, they sent Kenyatta and somebody else called Githendo to go, and there was a commission in Britain. They wanted to represent, to put their papers, their grievances to the commission. So Koinange, of course, had to be taken to go to the Mombasa, take a ship to America.
Go by ship to London. At this point, we have an articulate man who has at least three irons in the fire. He is strong in the church. He is very strong in politics as by the time he goes to London. And he is also senior in the administration, in the British administration, as advisor to the DC. Can you take us through how this articulate man makes the three irons in the fire? And he's also, by the way, you already mentioned, he's already spreading his wings into connections, local connections with Muranga and Kiambu. And he has an impact on the African response to the British settlement in Kenya. Can you take us through this particular phase?
All that time, there was nothing like Muranga and Kiambu.
Okay.
People were together.
Okay.
Koinange had, before the grandfathers came from Muranga, after coming from Muranga, he had left a land there. In fact, in 1926.
So they were together.
They had called him to go and take his land, family land in Muranga. So to them, everybody was like coming south. Because south there is more expansion. They are pushing up the Dorobo, and people are buying land. So there was nothing like we are from Muranga or anything. To them, they were together. Here they come, they can stay here. The chiefs from there, Chief Jiri, they will come and stay here.
And people in Kiambu would have land in Muranga.
When there was Naragu, the big famine, my mother Joyce was telling me they walked to Mohoya's place in Nyeri.
Yes.
And they cannot cross through here, through Thika, because those rivers are too wide. They have to go up as you are going to Abadeas. Then go all the way.
Find a crossing.
Yeah, find a crossing all the way to Muranga. And that, because of the famine, people were dying. And when you fall, they just, tagarada, they just go. They leave you there. They're not strong. They're already hungry. They are not strong enough to help you. They go. So Joyce went to Nyeri, and they stayed there. They got food there, then came, because this side, all the food have been taken to the World War and all that. So there was a lot of hunger. So when in that one, when Koinange went to when he went to when we went to Mombasa.
You say the ng'aragu ĩyo ya hĩndĩ ĩyo rĩ yarehirwo nĩ ũndũ wa irio gũtwarwo mbara-inĩ.
Of course, nĩ mbara yatũmĩte.
Irio kũrutwo gũkũ igatwarwo
Koinange
mbara-inĩ.
even contributed his own money.
Okay.
Because to him, wazungu were his friends. And they wanapigwa, so you help them.
Koguo indo irarutwo itwarwo mbara-inĩ
ya athũngũ.
Okay.
And not only that, he, being a chief, he went around looking for people already, especially those who are learned, who have been to school.
Yeah.
To his school, and take them to be the Karioko, the corps of the carrying.
The corps,
the corps, which was
the carrier corps.
The carrier corps. So when they went there, about 2,000 people didn't come back.
Okay.
They all died in the.
Okay.
When they came back, they were given land. The Wazungu were given land. That's when they got carried. Our people, nothing. So those small grievances Koinange was noticing. This didn't go well. This didn't go well. So he went to Britain. And when he went there, Kenyatta was also sent by the party.
Tell us something about the trip by ship to London.
When he was going there, he went with a DC, Kiambu DC called Fasan. And Ricky also came with them. Canon Ricky is very good in Kikuyu. So they thought these two would translate. So Ricky, in the ship, the room Koinange was staying, Ricky would go in. Koinange, how are you feeling? Not yet well. He used to take quinine.
Okay.
Take a quinine and put it in the mouth. And of course, Ricky knows how bitter quinine is. He said, this man, he must be very sick. And then he was telling Bioreta, I didn't want to tell them what I'm going to say. So they went, because he was told, you are going to meet the King George. In fact, when he went to Britain, he was treated very well. He even went to see a display of bomb. He went to Cup Final. They took him to a few industries. They took him to Windsor, King's Place. He was treated very well. But then he had to address the parliament. So when he went to parliament, that's when he said, he told the parliament, well, me, I'm from Kenya, and we are very happy with the King George. We are subjects of King George. King George, to us, is our father. But our land is our mother. And we would rather lose our father, but be left with our mother. Because we are young, we are still sucking. Yeah, we won't like to lose our mother.
We need attention.
Yeah. And
we'd rather have our mother.
Our mother is the most
important.
An
iconic statement that he made in the...
Fox is there in the Parliament Hansard.
Yes.
So they said, that's when they discussed it in Parliament, and they decided to send another commission. That time there was a commission already there.
Okay.
They had gone to address a commission. So they sent now a commission. Maurice Carter was a judge in Uganda, and he had been transferred to Tanzania, and he became the chairman of the commission. And when the commission came, Koinange became like the coordinator, because land that time was owned by Bari. Yeah, everybody knew this is Bari, ya Kihara, Bari ya Bogo, Bari ya Jono, Bari ya Bu. The Bari is the owner of that land. So they were representing, they were taking their petition as Bari.
Yes, Bari.
This land used to belong to a Bari.
Yes.
This land belongs to this Bari. And now Koinange knew all those Baris. In fact, Koinange was offered land in the whole of Parklands.
Okay.
Between the Muthaiga, where they have built the new road, Muthaiga, up to the Faraidano. where there is the church. That land, Koinange was given to withdraw these cases. Land. Kasema, no, I know the owners. I know the buries who owns that land. I have buried people across at the park. You know, there is a park.
The Nairobi Park.
Yeah. No, just opposite Aga Khan Hospital.
Yes.
There is a park there. City Park.
City Park.
Yeah. Koinange had buried the owners of that land at the City Park. So he knew who owns that land. He said, no, I cannot take this land. They then, because they were moving them they wanted to take all the land from Nairobi, that side. The Jiro, Ruai and all that. The Wazungu wanted to take that land. So they said, this is our grazing land. So they said, they will give you a grazing site. They gave them Deya. Although Deya also, they knew who owns Deya. But most of the Deya part of it was they could take Deya. In fact, they took Deya, but there was no water. That's when they made the Manguo.
To dry,
Manguo
Dam, you know.
Yeah, they made the swamp there for them to get water there. So in there, when he said that the commission came, he stayed with them all over. They were having sittings. And one of the sittings here now, the Koinange, one of the owner of this land, this company, was called Block, a Block. And Block was arguing that when we came here, there was nobody here. And Koinange is saying it's their land. I only heard about him saying this 2 weeks ago. That's what Block said. He only started claiming this land 2 weeks ago. This is our land. Then Koinange he wasn't happy by that. He said, no, maybe it's true. When we came here, you found people, there were not many people. Because people have died because of reader pest. There was another Ngaragu Yaroraya before this one, and our people have died. But even if all of us die, we still know from this river to this river, from this tree to there, this belongs to Richibari. We know who owns this land. So you cannot say that you found nobody. And the Mzungu insisted, no, we didn't find anybody. And so Koinange asked another lady, his mother, you know, his father's brother called Ngeri. In fact, they were living here. Their land, they were staying here, just here. That's where they were living. The brother had died, Gary, and now the two wives were left. For my father being the Muramati, he would take all the family people. You have to look for where for them to stay, where to run. They were staying here. So one of the lady there called Wai. She went and pointed where his father now, his father-in-law, Adesha was buried. And they digged up, and actually they found.
Okay,
and
they
even
found
Ricky, even Ricky, because they had explained how his teeth were and all that before he died. When they removed him, Ricky confirmed this must be the Gadesha. Ricky confirmed, and now the whole commission felt bad. They said, no, you know, in Britain it was splashed in the papers. The commission went uprooting dead people to just prove that land is theirs, and we know it's theirs. So Koinange, they said, at least give him what he wanted. It was about 2,000 acres. He refused. They didn't.
At this point, the settlers who were resisting or who were removing people and taking up land where there were graves, for example, what you said, were they acting individually or as a group?
No. You know, now, after the commission, they passed that Koinange should get his land back. In fact, the land here where Block was insisting, it was about 2,000 acres. But they didn't give him back. They later learned that the commission had a brief. Don't let the Mwafrika win this case. So it was just...
they were already,
they already
predetermined.
They already knew the end product.
They had limits, yeah.
So that one, Koinange was not happy. And that is what made Koinange now move from when Koinange, when Kenyatta was in Britain and Koinange went there, Kenyatta was telling the KCA, there is a commission coming. And if that commission come, please join together with Koinange.
Okay.
Koinange, we are fighting the same side. We are the same side. If the things here, what he told Parliament, even me, I would not have been able to say that.
He said it very well.
He said it
prioritizing the word mother.
So please join the Koinange and fight. Now we should fight the same side.
The same interests.
So, in fact, even that time, there was another rumor that Koinange out there, they have agreed even the land which was now reserved. Koinange has agreed to be taken by Muzungu. That was a fight now. So Jonjo and Philip Karanja, they wrote a memorandum. They said, no, if Koinange said that, we are not together.
Okay.
We are not fighting. We are not letting the land we have go. So when Koinange came back, even the people were not happy. Because there was that rumor. It was circulated by Muzungu, that's what Koinange is saying. So they didn't even go.
They were making him look like a sellout.
They didn't even go for to
welcome him,
to see him in Mombasa coming back. But Buta was already working there. James Buta was already working in Mombasa. He was a clerk there. So he organized the Kiama there, the Kikuyu Kiama group, and they went to welcome Koinange. But of course, when they came back, they knew it was a propaganda. So, in 1929, something else happened about Koinange. This was a setback. The same church, Koinange is a churchman. He has got a very big following. The church, one of the Muzungu of PCA was now representing Africans in Parliament.
Okay.
Because the Parliament had no African. The representative of African in Parliament, he wrote in the newspaper in August 1929, he said, Kikuyus should not circumcise women.
Okay.
And Koinange supported the Muzungu. Maybe it was a bladder because everybody was against Koinange. Koinange and Philip. Philip is in charge of Scotland Church. Koinange in charge of Anglican. Now they are in the council. And now they are saying no female circumcision. And that time, it's not like today. Everything was, you have to be circumcised. So it was a big fight. Koinange, that Muzungu even went further. He said people are going to sign. Those who don't want circumcision are going to put a fingerprint in a memorandum.
Okay.
That's where this name Kirore.
Kirore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kirore. Now these Kirore are the people against FGM. The people for it, they said, no, we are going to be Karinga. Kikuyu Karinga. The Kikuyu Karinga, now you see now they have split. The Kikuyu Karinga, the argument was, we have the Bible here. Show us where is written no female circumcision. There is nowhere in the Bible written that. This is the Bible. It's saying Jesus was born by Moiretu. How can you have a Moiretu who is not circumcised? So Jesus was born by a circumcised. That's what the Bible is saying. It was bad. So people, now the Mzungu is saying, now people have put Kirore. We are not even going to allow people who practice circumcision in our church. So the whole church, in fact, a big percentage, they moved out of the church. They started their own churches, Karinga churches. And that time already there was somebody from Greek, from Ethiopia, who had started Greek Orthodox. So they were joining the Greek Orthodox Church. And now they all came out from PCA and from Anglican Church. Because they are not practicing that. In fact, Koinange, one of the wife took a girl. They took him here at Kentmere. They went with Koinange's walking stick to the circumciser. Koinange has given us permission. You can see he has given us his stake.
He's okay.
He's given us permission to circumcise this girl. The girl was circumcised. Koinange, when she learned, the girl, the mother, circumciser were all taken in. Walifungwa, jela. So after the case, the girl said, I was not forced.
I did it voluntarily.
I did it voluntarily. They didn't force me, so they were all released. So he was that serious. But that thing broke. In fact, when Bio, after Githongori, we are going to talk about Githongori College. After Githongori, the schools which were closed, because they closed all those independent schools. Bio had about 400 schools. 400? Yeah. Because those now schools which were against, which were now out of the Christian faith. They were now this other faith. The Karinga schools and all, they were calling them, they were independent schools. So, Koinange, after that thing of circumcision, that is when now the commission came. Even so, when he was going to Britain, there were so many people who were against him going because they knew he's the one of this. In fact, they were saying, Mzungu, the case here now at Kenyatta, Mzungu told us, took our land. Now he's telling us not to circumcise our women. Who will going to marry them? Because you cannot marry uncircumcised. So they want to marry our girls. That's what they thought. They are saying that so they can take our girls. Now, Koinange, that time, the only school out, which was now a technical school was NITD. Native Industrial Training Depot. NITD Kabete, that Kabete, NITD. That's where, in fact, the railway before used to pass there. From Norfolk, yes, it was going there. People at NITD, they had gone to do practicals in Mombasa. They come knowing a song in Mombasa. They changed the wording into Kikuyu. They were calling it Mudirego. Muthirigo dance was against Koinange and Karanja.
Okay.
They were saying when Kenyatta come from Britain and Hariduku come from detention, Mukehuba Muduru.
Okay.
You were going to wear skirts, you Koinange. Because now you have changed our tradition. You have changed. There is nothing like we don't have that. So when he was going, there was that thing. So when Kenyatta was telling them join Koinange, the things he talked in Britain is we are fighting with the same side. So people a bit started coming back to Koinange to fight for the land. And so in 1938, that's when Laf Bunch came. Laf Bunch came. He had come to research of the land. In fact, my mother was calling him Kariuki.
Kariuki?
Yeah, because my mother at that time, she was a Mohiki, and she was assigned to cook.
Your mother met Ralph Bunch?
Yes, she was cooking.
Give him a name, a nickname?
Yes,
okay.
Called her Kariuki. And Kariuki now was staying in a guest room there. And my mother was cooking for him. He stayed. And Ralph Bunch, 10 years later, he was the one who started Israel. He was the one who negotiated for Israel. In fact, when Ralph Bunch went back to America, because he was a black American, he was honored by 27 universities. Because, I mean, he was an extraordinary man. So he stayed here. He stayed with Koinange here for
where we are.
Period. Yeah, in this land. The guest house is somewhere just in front of the main house. That's where he was staying. And Laf Bunch also did something else to Koinange. Because Koinange, when those Wazungu from just across here, they used to come to Koinange, even if they send a boy. Koinange anamtolea kofia because he's a Mzungu. Then they started noticing, Koinange noticed that the Wazungu, when they come to see Laf Bunch, wanamtolea kofia.
Okay.
And he's a black man.
It's the opposite.
It's the opposite. And a black man. So Koinange was asked, what is it in Laf Bunch that he's getting all these honors?
Attention, yeah.
So the Koinange knew his education. So he decided we are going to have a school of higher learning. Higher learning than what Wazungu. Because Wazungu wanted us to be the highest, those selected few who are in alliance. There was no other school. So Koinange decided we are going to have a school which is going to be of higher learning. And that's when they started Githongori teachers. So when Bio came, Bio was offered a job to be the headmaster of Prince of Wales. And but they were offering him half the salary of the headmaster who was in that school. Then there was the elders, the Gikuyu Kiama from Githongori, they also came. They told Koinange, give us this young man so we can be allowed to have a school of higher learning. And they negotiated, they agreed. So Koinange, in fact, Koinange Githongori is like him who built it. All the material he had bought to build Bio house. A lot of material, because Bio had wanted a 3-story house.
He put it in there.
He took it to Githongori. He bought land in Githongori. He started now what they were calling like Harambe. You do it by Rika. This Rika, like John Bio Rika was called Shiringi. That time they were calling themselves Nudu. They were the one who brought water.
The Rikas were like competing.
Yeah, no, Rikas were competing. And now Rika, you put money together, there is a project here to build a girls' dormitory. We call it Kerere. There is another project here to bring water. They buy pump and the pipes and put water in Githunguri. So Githunguri became Koinange's baby. He made sure. So even when Bio now went to Githunguri as the president of Githunguri College, Koinange was happy.
So higher learning was motivated by Ralph Bunche. When he saw the respect that was given to Ralph Bunche.
Yes.
And then he is educating his own son.
Yeah.
And he has the idea to push higher learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
To gain respect.
To gain respect.
Yeah. Reu tugithie na mbere ni tukinyite handu ha kumenya uria mbara yathondekirwo na niki andu ni ciiko iriku andu mekaga niguo mbara yambiririe na mehitwa ria makoragwo nayo na niku maiguanaga uria mekurwa mbara. Yes.
Okay, but the war, the Mau Mau war now, I said the first Muma was started in Muranga by Joseph Kang'ethe Group, the case Kikuyu Central Association. And what happened is, and Koinange, of course, I said he was offered backlands, refused. He was offered, they gave some people to in Limuru, Deya, and some people went there. But what had happened is Muzungu, they bought land in Oroguruoni. They bought quite a big chunk of land. And they wanted now to settle after the commission. One of the things, the results of the commission was even to remove most of the squatters in Rift Valley. So this is aftermath of the commission. They agreed they are going to buy land and put the squatters in one land. They bought land. They even added about 10,000 acres because the Maasai were complaining. There are some Kikuyu who had gone somewhere called Sibiri and they are sort of dominating that area and they want them out. So Muzungu bought a bigger land in Oroguruoni. And when they bought land in Oroguruoni, what happened is the people who were given Oroguruoni, they thought they are going to divide it as the people who were given land in Rari. The people who were given land in Rari were moved from Tigoni. After the Second World War, some people, Muzungu wanted to expand. He wanted Tigoni to be taken by Muzungu. There were about 10 families
moved to Tigoni
who are staying in
and
Tigoni.
they are now being asked to move again.
No, about 10 families are staying in Tigoni. And they want to move them out. So there is no that island of Africans in the White Highland. So that they agreed they are going to take them to Rari. Rari to them, to Muzungu, was a forest, was a government land. Although my father knew even the owners of that land. Of
Lari?
Yeah. They had about 3 families who owned Lari.
Okay.
But Muzungu didn't listen. So he took the people and took them to Rari. The people who were taken to Rari, they divided Rari the way they were staying in Tigoni. The 10 families divided. Our family had a bigger land, so we are going to get a bigger land.
The same way as they had lived in Tigoni.
Equivalent. I mean, they were getting maybe about 3 times their land in Rari, their land in Tigoni, in Rari. So when they divided, of course, they settled. They were not all happy because like some chief that time, the chief Kahangara was, I think they argued he took quite a big chunk, more than what, and I think it's what made people want to kill him even after when there was the Lari massacre. So the people who were taken to Ruguruni, they thought it would be the same. We know our families in wherever we have come from.
We reorganize ourselves.
And divide this land. And they were also saying, we are going to get the land between Kiambu and Ruguruni is also going to be our land. Yeah, we are not going to be passing Mzungu land to go to Rari. That was the argument. Because like here in Kiambu, a place like Dadine, where the people used to take their cattle to take salt, they were refused because the Mzungu owns that land. Although they can take when they are bringing their cows there, it is going through Mzungu land. So they refused them. Mzungu here also, they started damming. The small rivers, they are coming from wherever they are coming, they break the river so to make a dam. So people on the downside like us, they will not get water because all the rivers have been blocked. Those were all the grievances. So when they were given that land, that's what they argued. They said, okay, we will divide ourselves, we know how to. And we also want this corridor between here, Kiambu and Ruguruni, is also going to be our land. Yeah, we don't want to be passing through somebody else's land. So Mzungu was not happy. He said, oh, no, it can't happen. This is a settlement area. We are going to be telling you what to plant, which season. So they said, it became very controversial. So the people there, their leader was called Samuel Koina. He came with about 150 people. I mean, about 100 people. More than, because they were, my mother was telling me they were eating 2 sacks of unga in a day. 90 kilo bag, 2 of them. You can imagine how many people are eating in every day. So they came here, they were staying up here. They were camping here. The people now from Ruguruni. They came and told Koinange, now, you asked us, Koinange had been asked to go and talk to them in Rift Valley to make them, for them to agree to go to Ruguruni. Koinange had talked to them. He was taken there by Mzungu to talk to ask them to move. And Koinange had gone there with even Madhu, even Kenyatta. They had talked to them. So they agreed to move. Now where they have moved, still Mzungu is following them. He wants them to do what they... So they said, no. If we are here, it's us to decide what to do. So Mzungu did not like it. In every court, I told you, all the courts had people who would give oath as the final, even Kiambu court, all courts, even in Nakuru courts, there were people, there were some wazees, when you completely disagree, you say you take oath. There are some wazees in the court to give you oath. So this wazee, Mzungu took them to Ruguruni, give them oath to agree to stay here.
Okay.
So they were given oath. So when they came here, they told...
So they used oath givers to convince Olunguruni people.
So when they came here to Koinange, they told Koinange, we know we and people here who have come here, most of them have been given oath. Don't worry, we will take another oath to rub off the one you are taken from Zulu. So those people who came here, they were all given oath. So when they went there, that group gave everybody an oath. In fact, Kikuyu oath was only taken by a grown-up.
Okay.
I told you how they used to take. So it could not be taken by women. It could not be taken by children. But now when they went to Oguroni, they gave children and women, everybody took oath.
So the group that visited Koinange here, once they took another oath, When they went back to
They went to rub off.
it was everybody.
Everybody. So that was, I think, 46 or so, 1946. So everybody has taken oath now. Now the oath they are taking there is that they are going to stay. Yeah, nobody is going to tell them what to do. And Muzugu, it became like war now. They were chased out. The alternative, they had been given alternative to go to Yatta. The land now, I think, have been taken by youth service. It was the alternative of Oruguroni. So when those people are coming here, now from 48 and all that, they had those songs now, these days you are hearing people singing of Itungat. Those are the songs who are singing from Oruguroni now. Everybody knew kumeharibika, sasa vita imeanza. So they moved out. And when they moved out, of course, those people who are a bit more organized, they knew now this, they took that, they knew now it can be done. If we give people oath, tutapata Muzugu must go. Yeah. So, Bildad Kagia is presenting people from Muranga. Madenge, Stanley Madenge, representing from people from Nyeri. And Fred Kubai, representing people from Kiambu. They all now came to Koinange. And now that is the first group now. They said now we are going to take another oath of batoni, of battle. We are going to fight. Now after this oath, it wants kutafuta.
Why the word batoni?
Batoni, battle.
Okay, battle.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's for fighting now. It's battle. So they took, now they started that oath now. This is the third oath. I told you the first oath was taken by people in Muranga. The second one was in Oruguroni.
With the soil on the navel?
Yeah, the other one is Oruguroni, which now they have moved out of the norms of Kikuyu. Now
Everybody.
they are giving everybody, even children. Now this other one now is the battle. The battle is a bit more serious. Yeah, they are not giving children, but it's a bit more serious because now this is
it's an oath of readiness.
It's a serious oath because now they started collecting guns. Some of, like one of my brother had so many taxis. The taxi drivers were always there at Norfolk. When they take people who are drunk, the Muzungu is drunk, being taken home, they take the gun, they drop him somewhere, they go. So everybody now, they were getting guns. Yeah, I know there was somebody, one of my other brother was telling me, most guns would be collected and put somewhere in Embakasi. And because he used to be a teacher and nobody would think a teacher would be in this thing, then you go with a motorbike to Embakasi and carry the guns, bring them home. So now this became a nothing place. Everybody here is being given oath. If you refuse, then you are not for us. Everybody for us have to take an oath. Because now the oath is like they are agreeing we are going to fight. So when the group in Githunguri, the Kiama of the Kikuyu, they did not like the oathing of Oruguroni. Because to them, they know Gikuyu type of oathing should be this way.
Yes.
So they were a bit against. The Christians were also not happy of the oathing, of course, because the things they are doing is not Christian. But now everybody else, now you are either on our side or not. So everybody became, those 2-3 groups joined when it became the Batoni oath. The young Turks, those I was telling you from Madenge, and now they was there from Githunguri, and now Koinange is still leader of the Baris. And Koinange bitterness and all that is because of land. So people who are after land, and now these people, they all joined. They were calling it Kiamba Parliament. then Kiambaa Parliament was meeting here. It's the first parliament outside the other parliament. This was now their own parliament. And now the Kiambaa Parliament, you see now the people who are in the Kagia is in charge is of the union, workers union. He was in charge of domestic workers union. And most of the workers that time were domestic workers. Or wazungus, either you are shamba boy or you are
kitchen boy.
Kitchen or whatever it is, those are domestic workers. They're either working for Mzungu or Muhindi. The other group is, which was also another big union, was for transport and mechanic. And now their leader was Kubai. Kubai that time had just come from detention. He had been detained for 7 months, I think 7 or 9 months, because he wanted to kill Ofafa in town. Because in Nairobi, there were some councillors who were for the Mzungu. And the other councillors were not. So they decided to kill them. And Kubai was...
That is Kubai?
Yeah, Kubai. So what had happened is, in 1950, they wanted to make Nairobi city. Nairobi was going to be the city. And they had brought in Duke of Gloucester was to be the guest, the chief guest. Duke of Gloucester, they were planning when Duke of Gloucester come, we are going to give him a chair, a Kikuyu chair, doing a Masai.
A stool.
Yeah, a stool, a Masai something, and a Kamba something to make him look more African. And now Kubai was not buying that. He said, those people who are organizing this, before the Gloucester come, we'll kill them. That's what Kubai decided. They will kill all of them. All those Botera and all that. So they didn't. Of course, intelligence knew, and he was taken in. So this time now they are coming here. Kubai had just come from jail for 9 months. So you see now all of them are stirred up. And the Muma is also something stirring them up. They're saying, of course, Zungu.
So now we have several centers of oath commitments. We have Olunguruone, we have the Transport Workers Union, we have the Kubai's people. The domestic, Kagia's people in the domestic Workers Union. And then we have the family of Koinange here. Who are also working in the preparedness.
No, when now the people Kubai is reading in Nairobi, people Kagia is reading in Nairobi, most of them in Nairobi, because you see they also have got their people in, like Kagia has got people in Murang'a. The other one, Madenge, has got his people from Nyeri. All the people who are being read now, when you gather them, you bring them here to take an oath. They were all coming here.
So the Koinange home was central.
It was central. Everybody was coming to take oath here.
Very good,
They were all coming. And part of the oath is that they are going to go to the forest. And when they go to the forest, they are going to come back. And that was the usual thing in Kikuyu way of going to war. When they used to go to war with Masai.
You go to war to win and come back.
When you go to war, you come back and you report whatever you are going to get. You are going to bring it home. So that was the agreement. So they all knew whatever it will happen, they will have to come back to Koinange and tell them, because now it's like their father. We have done this. And some of the Kikuyu customs, like when you are going to war as a son, whoever put you a belt, you know Kikuyu are not wearing clothes. It require one cloth, waguo moja tu hapa. So every health is you are naked. And they used to live like that. So the one who is going to put you give you a belt ya kubeba sword. Ni mama yako.
Your mother.
Yeah. Kwa sababu mama yako, whatever you are, hakuna uchi. Aliona hata ukiwa mtoto. Kwa hivyo, kwa mama yako hakuna uchi. So mama yako anakufunga that belt. Anakutuma kichaka. I mean, ukapigana na Masai or whatever. So when you finish, you come unamrudishia hiyo, anakufungua, na anatoa hata
anaweka mambarita.
Anaweka kwa nyumba. He's proud. My son amerudi, amewin.
You've done your work.
Yeah. If you have killed somebody, he's even more proud. You go around singing a song they used to call Waime, showing that is of the group who have killed Masai or something.
Yes.
So they were also proud. So most of the people here were being said by Joyce. Because
Joyce
is the grandfather to Jeff. Grandmother to Jeff. She's the one who was sending people to the forest. As a mother. So even that one, the belt which Dedan Kimathi, you can when you see the picture of Dedan Kimathi on Kimathi Street, he has a gun.
He's wearing
and he has a sword. It looks odd. If you have a gun, you don't need a sword. So sword is not for war. It's symbolic.
It's symbolic.
It's symbolic.
Yes.
Yeah. You've been sent. You have been.
What was the symbolism of Haile Selassie's visit on this compound?
So
and the sword that he left with Koinange.
The sword which Kimathi is wearing, they were brought here by Haile Selassie. In fact, there is a family in Banana, they're called Gabure. Gabure, that mzee was from Ethiopia. He's a Mogashi.
Okay.
And now, being a Mogashi, he was the translator when
Haile Selassie visited.
When Haile Selassie visited, he was translating to Haile Selassie in his own language. Yeah, because he had come here a long time ago. And he's also married to one of our relatives. So when Haile Selassie came, they made an agreement that he's going to help train people to go to war. So those people who are being sent, that's why Haile Selassie gave the sword. Whoever is going to be in charge, give him this sword. And the other one, these two swords, you give the people who are in charge. So Koinange gave one sword to the wife.
Joyce.
Yeah, because she was going to be in charge. Joyce was the national treasurer of Mau Mau before they brought somebody else. After they joined KCA, then somebody else took that. Because Joyce had buses, and every evening after buses come, they bring the money in a mwago. You know those times in Mashiri. Mwago kwa mkeka wanahesabu. So if Muzungu come and find Joyce with money, Joyce would easily explain. Niza basi, niza kazi. Muzungu knows nafanya kazi ya biashara ya basi.
Nishiawera.
I've corrected. Nishiawera. Without knowing, those buses, when they are going up, another lady from Gashie, somewhere called Gasharage, were called Wanjohe. Wanjohe was now in the bus collecting money for the Mau Mau. When the bus goes where, she's there. Those people, when they get money, they go into the bus, they give to Wanjohe. They know that
it will get where it's supposed to go.
Yeah. Then Wanjohe will bring to Joyce. Joyce was the national treasurer of Mau Mau. So they will count the money and keep. When they bring other things, the Joyce's son was keeping the guns. So it's actually, I would say it's sad that the family was not compensated in any way. Even last time when people went to Britain, they were paid I don't know how much. The family, nobody in that family got even a cent. And not only...
Yet the treasury was here.
Not only that money, but even the land, which they were fighting for. That family did not get even mchanga ya mkebe kuweka nyumbani
Eh.
where you can inaitwa nini, where you plant something
Eh.
in a garden at home. They didn't get anything. So it was actually very sad.
Yeah.
So now they have started the correcting. There is now people. The movement here would attract Mzungu.
Mm-hmm.
So when people started coming in big way here, they moved the station to Banana. There was meeting at John Mbio's Koinange, now one of the Koinange son, and Mbio Koinange, the ministers, also land somewhere. That's where now people from Nairobi were coming. And it went on until now they started giving oath in Nairobi, in places, and now those people in Nairobi, they started going outside their home place in Murang'a and Nyeri. But the whole group, they had promised to come back here.
Okay, back to Haile Selassie and his symbolic sword. Was there a commitment to help arm or finance or help militarily the establishment of Mau Mau?
Promised. In fact, when people say Madenge was in, if he of course must be dead in Ethiopia, is those they were following that. They knew there was an agreement between Koinange and Haile Selassie
about assistance.
There is assistance. Maybe if things get hot, they can go down to him or something like that. There was an agreement. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, let's move on to what happened after the war proper began and people went into battle. Some got killed, some killed, and they executed the war. How was the war, how was that agreement about coming back? How was it effected?
Well, let me say, when now something in 1952 in August, there was a big meeting in Kirigiti. That meeting, they called Koinange. It was organized by Mzungu. They called all the chiefs, Chief Mohoho, Chief Jonjo, Chief all those chiefs, all the Waruhiu and all that group. They were all called in Kirigiti. But the aim was Kenyatta was supposed to denounce Mau Mau, and Koinange was supposed to denounce Mau Mau, because all that time Mzungu knew Koinange is not part of it. I mean, they were saying Koinange is not part of it. But before that, in 1940, when KCA was banned, it was banned. The KCA now was the Jomo Kenyatta Party. When they banned it in 1940, their office in Nairobi, people came, who were doing the intelligence, they came to check. And they found one of the one I told you joined KCA called George Kirongothi. George Ikoro Kirongothi is from Karura. He carried some files. He was the Secretary General. He carried the files. He went with them in Karura. The other files and whatever was left there, the Mzungu, when he came and perused those documents, he noticed Koinange is actually the leader of the...
In the center.
Is the center. So they came and told him, wow, now we have discovered you are that, and now there is no alternative. They sacked him. They sacked him. You are no longer a chief. But
what date was that?
It was now in 42. Although KCA was banned in 40. In 42, they sacked him as a chief, senior chief. But they thought if like before they've been coming to Koinange's and they learn a few things, if Koinange is not a chief, we will not be able to enter his place. So the best thing, Koinange, you still be a chief, but we got no location. Yeah.
No
so
duties.
So we will give you salary. When that time chiefs, like Koinange was getting 125 shillings a month. Jomo Kenyatta that time as a meter reader before that was getting 250.
Okay.
So he's getting double the senior chief's salary. So it was not a big thing. But now they said, we'll continue giving you the salary, but you have got no location. That to them, they will be able to be coming to Koinange because it's their subject. They are paying him salary and they can know what
so
is
they
going
still
on.
need him in spite of discovery.
They thought they need him. So that time, that already Koinange had been moved. He was no longer a senior chief. So in this meeting in Kirigiti, they wanted Koinange to say, I don't know anything about Mau Mau and Kenyatta. Kenyatta, when he started speaking, he said that Mau Mau murathire miria mikongo. Then the Muzungu didn't understand that. They tried to
it's a very profound phrase.
Yeah, what is this Miriam Mikongwe? He actually, the letter said, no, he didn't denounce it. He told them to go underground. Because Miriam Mikongwe is underground. That's what they thought. Then Koinange himself, he said, I'm 84 years old now, and we helped Mzungu fight the First World War. In fact, we sent people, so many of our people didn't come back. The Second World War, we also helped Mzungu fight. And when they came out, they were given the land in Karen, given land in Tigoni, and us, nothing. We didn't get anything, and we helped their fight. So he said, me, I have, since I was born, I have not seen any burial of Mzungu. So people now understood Koinange. You know, they have been taking oath. Most of them are nearly the whole crowd. They have taken oath. He, the one is talking to them. So they knew he was telling them.
He was talking to them.
Yeah, of course, it's a big meeting in Kirigiti. Big meeting of maybe 10,000 people. Yeah, so they knew Koinange is telling us to go and get our land back. So Mzungu didn't also understand what Koinange said. But that was now the opening of war. In less than 2 months, 1.5 months, the chief Waruhi was murdered in Gashie. And now the first person to be arrested was Koinange. They came here, they asked him, Koinange, have you heard the news? He said, yes. Kashiko. He also noticed his two sons have been taken on. John Mbio, where now the Kagia and Kubai were meeting across there. Taken. Then they take Noah Karoga, now one of the son of Joyce. They were taken, 3 of them. Then they were accused. They stayed in police cells for quite some time. Somebody helped.
How old was he at the time?
Koinange. Koinange, I told you when he said, I'm 84 years old.
84 years old.
That's what he said in Kirigiti.
When he was in prison.
So he was imprisoned after saying he's 84. So he was about 84.
Okay.
Yeah. He was about 84 when they took him. So they stayed in police Mirimani for some time. Somebody helped them to be taken to remand in Australia. They stayed in Australia doing their case. He brought in a king council, Dingo Foot. They found, although he was not accused of killing. Well, he was accused of being an accessory to the death of Arun. So he won the case, and they were supposed to be released. But outside the court, so now, of course, already now emergency have been announced. Now that still now you are being taken in for the Wadhawe, the emergency law, and he was taken to Kamete. Stayed for small days there. He went to Gadigiridi, Gadigiridi in Kirinyaga. From Gadigiridi, he was taken to Marsabit, where he spent most of his time there, in Marsabit.
Okay.
When they started now, like releasing him, they brought him to Kabarnet. Stayed in Kabarnet. Kabarnet, they allowed Joyce to go, and Joyce had been jailed in Kamete prison for quite some time. But now she was taken there to stay with the husband. And after, when he was nearly dying, they noticed so many things. When one of Koinange's daughter went there, he found they had put some powder in his bed to kill him. So they of course, nothing they can do. He died slowly. So when he came out, he didn't even finish a month home.
Yes. Prior to that, there was a visit on this compound by a certain Mr. Fenner Brockway, who created a certain amount of motion because he agreed or seemed to sympathize with Chief Koinange.
Fana Brockway and another lady, I think they were calling somebody Castle. They were in the Labour Party. And there were some of the people who are saying, who are not so much for the government, the way it is treating the Kenya citizens. I mean, the natives. That's what they were calling them. So Fana Brockway is, and in Britain, he was a friend of Bio. And then, and Bio was, when they announced the emergency, Bio was also not allowed to come home. He was now like a refugee. He could not come home. So, Fana Brockway was sort of helping the fight, sort of.
Okay.
But he came here, he met Koinange and all that. But they didn't help much because it didn't help much. There were other people who also used to come. There is somebody like Peter Abrahams from South Africa. They all came
in that phase.
Yeah, they used to come and because they couldn't understand why a chief, a very loyal chief, is being mistreated this way.
So now we have we arrived at the run-up, to serious discussions about how to let go of the colony of Kenya and how to come up with independence. And we know that there were certain strategies used by the British government to purchase, to give a loan, to lend money to Kenya so that Kenya could buy back land for those who are willing buyers and willing sellers, so that the settlers could let go of land if they were willing.
Well,
how did that whole process in the run-up to independence go?
Well, after independence, that was after independence. When the people who had gone to the forest.
Begin maybe with the story of Lancaster House. And how the Koinange influence was removed, including locking up in handcuffs, ensuring that Bio could not move, even from London.
He could not.
Remember, he had a job in the US, and they refused to allow him to go to teach in the US. So let's begin with that.
Yeah, that I think Bio story. We talk Bio story another day because Bio was also on his own. He did so many things. But of course, even Bio, when he was in London, he had gone back to London to do his PhD in London School of Economics. He didn't finish. But when he was in London, he was on a scholarship. In fact, that's when they met with Kenyatta. And Kenyatta was confessing that he had eaten enough food when they met with Bio.
That's when he was able to eat.
To eat, because Kenyatta have been sent here by people who are sending him, when they are correcting the money, they
It's 5 shillings, 2 shillings, 4 shillings.
That is very little. So Bio was being on a scholarship. He was not badly off. But now when Koinange, the family here, of course, it came out that the family are reading the Mau Mau and all that. Of course, Bio was also now in bad books. And when he's in bad books, they also mistreated him so badly. In fact, they even refused him to come and see his father because he wanted to come and see his father now in detention. And he's the dying man. They refused. They did so many bad things to him. They refused him to come. In fact, according to the laws of even today, when you are staying there, you can visit other places, but not your home. That's what they say. Even people who go to America today, and they can come through to Kenya, through Tanzania. They say they are going to Tanzania when they drop, they cross. That's what they saw. Immigration law. So Bio was not allowed to come to Kenya, but he was allowed to go to other places, not Kenya. So he went to, when Ghana was getting independence, Bio went there, became an advisor on education. He stayed there. Then they started the OU, the one now we are fighting for to get. And Bio was the Secretary General of the OAU. That time they were calling
of the OAU.
Yeah, they were calling it Pasmeka. He was, and the headquarters was in Tanzania. So Bio came to Tanzania. He was, in the fact, when he was in Tanzania, he was coming home. He was in charge. He was the Secretary General of Pasmeka. So I stayed there until now. After independence, there we became a Minister of Education. What I was saying is, Koinange, he was when during the there was a question I wanted to answer. I can't remember what you asked.
I wanted the whole run up to the independence. Negotiations,
So Koinange, of course, he's detained. So when they are negotiating independence and all that is, but after independence, in 1960, before he even got independence, Koinange died.
Okay.
So he died before, he never saw independence. But what happened is the government then, when the first government, that's what they call it, I don't think it was very sincere to the people who had gone to the forest. Because they started a project. They were saying they agreed with the British government that they are going to give money from Commonwealth Bank to buy the development of the land. And when you pay the development, you pay to the owners, whoever who have developed.
For capital developments.
Yeah, the Mzungu get the money in sterling pounds and you go back and leave the land. Then most of the people who would be able to buy that development were the people who were, during that time, were already loyal to the Mzungu government. So the Mau Mau and the people, and now the just mother and all that, they could not they could not afford. They have just been in detention. How can they afford to buy even a land of 200,000, even if it's that cheap? So most of the land was taken over by people who are not the fighters of the land. And now the people who are already, were still in the forest, they were not happy. They refused to come out. They refused to leave. They were telling Kenyatta, we can't come out because our agreement with Koinange
was to get back our land.
To get back our land. And we had promised we are going back to Koinange. In fact, there was about 30 Mau Mau groups. They formed so many different groups. And in 1999, during Moi government, they asked Moi permission, can we be allowed to go to Koinange home? And they came. Some of them came. They came and they slaughtered cows here, they ate and all that. Because if you don't go back and you had swear to go back, when you die and you die somewhere in Murang'a, you tell your family, if I die before I go back to Koinange, because I had promised, and maybe that is what is eating me, that's what is killing me. Go there and get some soil, go and put it in I step on it. So I feel like I've gone back.
I've done my duty.
So this thing does not follow my children. Because Muma would follow even the children's children.
The children's children.
So and even now, there are people who still feel that. Feel that we didn't go back. Our parents, maybe that's what killed them. So there is still that thing. And some maybe one day we might be able to get it done, to get it organized here. Because most of the people who, even like Madenge, when they are saying he's in Ethiopia, he was in Ethiopia because there was an agreement with Koinange and his people, and he's one of them, that we are going to do something, we are going to help you. If things go back, land back to us, we'll help you. We'll help you push back. So it has not been the way,
Okay. All right. Now, maybe in conclusion, we can begin to look at the Koinange family after the independence, in the independence era. Were they given their rightful prominence or their rightful regard in relation to the fight for the war?
Well, that one, it's actually sad to say no. And it's actually, I don't know what is going to happen. Because you can imagine, like now, the lady I was telling you, she was the national treasurer of Mau Mau. Her son, even before we started now taking, the fight, people going to the forest and all that, when they started collecting guns, his son, when he was cleaning the gun, he killed himself.
Okay. During this preparatory
period. He's preparing guns for war.
How did that happen?
I think he was cleaning a gun which had a bullet without knowing. So the bullet came out. And it was very bad because at that time, if he have been killed by a bullet, if Muzungu come and find it's a bullet, the first question you ask, where is the gun? And the guns are so many hidden in his house. So they buried him secretly.
Okay.
The schools here were closed. Everybody in the school, we walk and look for him. Wazungu knew somebody, he had disappeared. So we have to make sure we find him. Schools in Kiambaa were closed, all of them.
To look for this man.
To look for this man. And that time already is buried. He left children who were maybe less than 4 years old. His wife was taken into detention, that man. The second brother is just father. He's taken in detention. He stays there 7 years.
That is Fred.
Fred.
Yeah, okay.
He's taken there. That's another son. The third son is Noah, who was taken in immediately after Waruhi was dead, and he was detained. He was taken to Manyani. He was taken to Kisumu, then Manyani. Their sister, this Joyce's daughter, was also murdered. It's called Lillian. Lillian used to send money to Mbio with the newspaper. You take a newspaper, arrange money, fold the newspaper, send it to a prince in India called Upper Pant. Then that prince, because his diplomatic bag, will take that newspaper to Mbio in England in a diplomatic bag. So Mbio get money. They discovered this Lillian. They killed her.
Okay.
The other girl, the older one, it's called Wanjiko. Wanjiko was beaten until her uterus came out in front by Muzungu. That is one. That's another one. Wanjiko's husband used to be driver of Kenyatta, called Nahashon Tati. He was also jailed. And all that, after all that, not even a soil, a pot soil of what Koinange was asking for. Their father is gone, their mother is gone, all the children are in detention. I don't know what can be done.
Okay.
That is only one family. You can go to the other family and it will be the same story. There is another Wanjiko called Tabitha. She was also beaten in Dendero until she died. Following days, the chief who was beating her was told, no, Wanjiko didn't die. She took her to detention.
Okay.
She was jailed here in Kio River. They used to have a Kyugo, a detention place, and they were staying there naked. We went to visit her with my mother. I could not be allowed because everybody is naked, all the women. So, and even that, they didn't get anything. Yeah, so it's actually very
no national recognition, no symbolic understanding of what the family did. Yet, the rebuilding of the Koinange family, the rebuilding, in many senses, you see Jeff sitting over there, you see an Attorney General of the government of Kenya, you see a CS in finance. You see a lady who was the first top nurse in the country. You see many Koinanges who have rebuilt the name in their professional capacities. Is this like an uptick from the war, or is it personal?
I would not maybe I'll say it's God.
Personal effort.
I would say it's God.
It's God.
Because it's not the government. Nowhere had Mama Jeff been helped. Even what we are calling, what do people go for schools now these days?
Social assistance.
There is a name they call them. They give the students bursary.
Bursaries, okay.
She's not getting bursary. It's not anything. She, on her own, she tries and...
On her own effort.
On her own effort, without a husband. And she's building, and she take her children to the highest level they can. What we mentioned, somebody else is the same. So I think you cannot miss God. You cannot give credit to anybody else.
Okay.
Because now, who else? How did it happen? Yeah. Because what Muzungu wanted to finish. Yeah. And,
grind down everything.
And finish completely. That name should never come out again. For us, when we are doing school, in common entrance, that time there were common entrance. You fail. Yeah, there are some instructions. Koinange should not pass. Yeah. For me to do my standard 7.
Instructions that they could not pass.
Yeah, they should not pass
the exams.
Exam.
Yeah.
For me to pass my exam in standard 7, I had to change my name.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you change it to?
You just correct the name. You call I think my certificate reads Bogwa.
Yes.
I don't even know where I got the name from. Because if you don't, you'll not pass.
You'll not pass.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they really wanted to finish
the name.
The name. But then I cannot. That's why I'm saying it can only be God. That we have in one of the top broadcaster in Kenya. I mean, what else can you say? Yeah.
Okay. Finally, if there was some national sanity, to be put into the struggle and the era of gaining independence and fighting for it, organizing for it, if there was some national event of sanity coming into recognition of the people who sacrificed or who organized the attainment of independence for Kenya, if there was a museum or there was a stadium where national heroes were recognized and put on display for history to correct itself, where would you put the family, Koinange and his family, and all the matters that we've been discussing?
Well, I think now, like you are a scholar. You're a high-ranking scholar, and there are many of you. Those people who dig out this history and know the truth. And now, when they know the truth, I'm hoping somehow, they'll go back. Yeah, because if like the childrens of Kimathi, if they know this is how it is. Before you mentioned Kimathi, there was somebody who sent him. If they know that, and people who are following that, the children of Madenge, if they know that, the children of Kubai and all that, if these people, or even people who are just interested in Kenyan struggle, they will come back here home and maybe help us to, and help people to just know what we are saying now. Yeah. And maybe even what you're saying, a museum and all that, we have got land, we can give them and they can, whatever it is. Yeah. Yeah, people, and this land is not what Koinange lost in the Muzungu, because what he lost, he didn't get. This is what he bought after. Yeah, he bought after. And now even some of people, like Jeff, maybe they are bought what you're calling Maguta plots.
Maguta.
So, yeah, because I don't think there is anything else we can do. Yeah.
Now, a lot of activity took place exactly where we are sitting.
Yeah.
Would this kind of historical correction include, for example, building a monument or a library or a podium or a remembrance for a senior chief Koinange?
In fact, there is one of the universities Bio went to in 1927, 26, when he went to America. When he was there, I mean, he was, to him, having come from Kenya, and a person from Kenya, the university asked how they would learn about Koinange, the Kikuyu customs and traditions. And Bio wrote home to his father. And father sent a whole container of things about Kikuyu
Okay.
to that university. And that university had been asking, they want to return those things because to them now in America, they don't have a lot of meaning. They maybe have a more meaning in Kenya. So if we start something like that, it would be very easy to get something like that. People would see Kikuyu spears, Kikuyu clothes, because I think Koinange collected all those items and sent them to America. So if we can get that, it would be good for other people because there are some people who want to learn. There are some people like me who don't want to hear that because it makes me feel bad. You know? Yeah, it can make you feel very bad. Yeah.
Okay.
But our children would want to something like that. Yeah.
There could be studies of that era.
Yeah, of course.
There could be understandings of why this particular venue is so important, with the house built in 1920.
Yeah, he built it
next to us.
Yeah.
And so I would like to think that part of what we are trying to achieve in this dialogue is to fill the gaps, and give a holistic picture of what happened before us. Because if we don't do it at this particular juncture, there are many, many young people. Actually, there are many people who are not so young, who do not know what happened.
Yeah.
So I would like to thank you a great deal for this afternoon and several hours of discussion, for basically carrying an encyclopedia of an entire era of pre-independence thinking. When people realized what was being done to them, their preparations to fight back and claim what was theirs, and the resolutions that are not perfect, but it's a story that continues to evolve. So I would like to thank you a lot. Thank you very much for the interview. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
In this segment of the discussion, I think we merit a discussion of the family, the Koinange family, the nucleus of the family and how it was organized. I understand there were 6 wives, and we would like basically to focus and do a tracer of the family and the way it was organized.
Okay.
The Koinange family. Yeah.
Okay, when Koinange came to here we are, although I told you it was a bit up there when he was given somewhere to build. When he was chased from he had 3 wives. The first wife is called Mariamu Wangoi. Mariamu came from he was daughter of Kihara. Kihara they were from Bariaigi, from Dumberi. Mariamu came in, when she came, she had, Bio was born, and 2 sisters, Ridian Wairimu and Isabel Wanjiko. They also had a Kihara. Kihara died because of that movement. He died because now Koinange came in as an IDP. So Kihara died. So Bio is the one we are saying is from of Mariamu. He was called Peter. Peter Mbio went to they were all educated here in Kiambaa He went to Buxton School in Mombasa. After that, he came to Alliance. He was a student, I don't know number what in Alliance.
Yeah.
Then he went to Britain. I gave you a story of him going to Britain, to America. He went to study. He went into several universities in America. And when he was there, then his sister, the one, you know, the way we name children. We name children, the first son, you name your father. The second son, you name the father of the mother. The third son, you name your brother. So in Koinange family, all wives had Mbio, because he's the father of the Koinange, and they had Wanjiko, because the Wanjiko is the mother of Koinange. They also have Wairimo, because Wairimo is a sister of Koinange, first sister.
The first sister.
Yeah. And they also have Karoga, like my name, who is the first brother of Koinange. So in the Mariam family, there is Isabella, Wanjiko, she got friend with somebody. We call him today Gedharia. In Kikuyu custom, if a girl get pregnant and you don't want her to get married, you build her a house behind your house, mother's house, called Dhingira. It cannot be house. It's a Dhingira, because house is an altar. You build a Dhingira. Then she can continue having children with somebody called Gedharia. Gedharia will still be coming there getting children, but those children do not belong to the Gedharia and do not also belong to the mother. They belong to you as a father.
Okay.
So the first daughter of Koinange, she was the first daughter of senior chief. She was older than Bio. She was taken that way. Bio didn't want her Koinange didn't want her to marry. So another family came. They wanted her, and they brought dowry here. And that time, Koinange would call his family from Kabuko, Gesha. We have got a big family there. From Rimuru, from Mangu. They will come and celebrate the marriage of this first daughter. So when they came, one of the people who are coming from Deya side, they asked Koinange, who are we? This Goima for who? Wanjiko. We met with Wanjiko near Rimuru. She was running away.
From her own ceremony.
Yes. Because she doesn't want to marry this person.
Okay.
She wants the other one, the Gedharia one now. So, Koinange...
Gedharia meaning that the other person, the person who had given her a child, was a married man.
She had not begun a child. But now, when she got that, and Koinange didn't want her to get married to this person, and this Wanjiko is still insisting this one, that they were calling that man a Gedharia. So it's called Stephen Gedharia.
Okay.
And Gedharia, Gedharia and somebody else, they are the people who inspire Bio to go to fight Muzungu.
Okay.
Because where they were sitting somewhere in Dembegwa, the banana road was full of dust. It was not tarmac that time. And they were sitting somewhere up there, Ruge Kaiguru. Bio and his age mate Gedharia and somebody else. And then Bio, those people were saying, no, now they are going to Tigoni with the cars. And there is a lot of dust. Then the Gedharia told Bio, is it going to be this way now? Muzungu tupigia to dust. Bio told them, no, Mzungu can go. They made a bet. Bio made a bet with Gedharia. It was an age mate that Mzungu would go. So one of the things which pushed Bio even to Githongori College and all that is that bet they made with Gedharia.
Okay.
That Mzungu will have to go because they had bet. So that one of the first daughter, Bio is the first son. The other daughter is called Lilian Wairimu. Wairimu was named sister of Koinange. And the first Lilian was married to Bishop Bobadia Kariuki.
Okay.
She's the mother of the...
That's the mother of Kariuki, the Attorney General.
Yeah. She was the mother of former Attorney General. And the Kariuki had come here as a teacher in Kiambaa School, which belonged to Koinange. The Kiambaa School was owned, in fact, it's on Koinange's land. It was his school. So Kariuki came to teach there. Yeah. And after teaching, of course, he got a girl, and they even bought land here. So they belong to this area. The other, from the same Mariam, there was Charles Koinange. Charles Koinange was, even during all that struggle, Charles was a chief. He took chief. He was Mzungu. They were arguing, you cannot be a chief if you are not a Christian. For them to know your character, you have to be a chief. You have to be a Christian. So, and you cannot be a Christian if you have more than one wife. So Charles is one of the people who separated. He threw another wife to become a chief. She became a chief. And when Koinange was detained, being a chief, he was the one left out here. So he was learning like Koinange businesses. Koinange gave him his open, like an open check, give him the account to help build a church. Koinange, that time they were building a
This is the Charles we flew with once on Pan Am from Senegal. Yes, yeah.
Charles. Oh, you okay? Charles was the father of Dr. Koinange, who used to be a director of medical services. Later became a PS, and he had so many other children. Now, in the same Mariam had who? Had the girl who was married to Kenyatta. So called Metondo.
Miss?
Metondo.
Metondo.
Yeah, he was named Koinange's sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
She was married during the Githongori College days.
Not Githongori College. College was before. When Kenyatta came back in 1946. In fact, this tank you see here, is Kenyatta who built it. He was build it. He was staying here. He was staying in a storehouse there, Kombi. That's where he was sleeping. And that's when they met with Metondo and he married Metondo.
Okay.
Metondo got her...
On this compound?
Yeah. Metondo got her first child, one boy. And when she was getting her second child in Kiambu Hospital, she died. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now the child was brought back here, was brought up by their grandmother until Kenyatta married Mama Ngina, and now the child became like Uhuru's sister. Yeah. Yeah. That is the first wife. The second wife was called Julia Njeri. Julia Njeri helped Koinange. In fact, this land where we are now, it was where the Julia has come from. It was their Julia's family. So Koinange got this land because she's married to one of their daughters. Okay. So she was given place to build here because of Julia. So Julia is the same who started the church with Koinange. And is the same who called her stepfather to continue with church, who was in Scotland church. So Julia, the first son, was John Bio. John Bio, when the whole thing came out from here, it went to John Bio's. And John Bio and Noah Karoga and Koinange were the people taken in immediately after the death of Waruhio.
Okay.
Because the gentleman who killed Waruhio, who confessed he killed Waruhio, he said he had been given the gun by John. And when he finished, he took it back to John. But the gun was looked after, the Mzungu didn't find it.
It was never found.
It was never found. So John and his brother and his father, they were released. The case was they are accessory to the death, so there is no even gun and all that, so they were released. John, even the first Senate, before now the senators we are having now, there used to be a Senate before. John was the first senator of Kiambu.
Okay.
Yeah. And John's wife was very instrumental into, she also joined John in politics. Because when they organized even the attack in Rari, they were organizing John's house. And when they organized there, is the wife who gave them money. He told them where to get cash if things go back in the Muru. He kept money somewhere in the shop so they can come and take money.
How the getaway?
The same way, the same group, one went to Rari and the other one went to Naivasha, where they stole a whole lorry of ammunition.
And they released prisoners.
Yeah. That arrangement.
The prison attack.
That arrangement was made by John's wife.
Okay.
It was made in John's house.
Okay.
Yeah. So the other brother is called James Jeroge. And James Jeroge was also detained with Jeff's father. They were in Ramu together. And he also have got a big family. There is also the lady I told you who was killed, but she later is a sister to John. She's of the Juria family called Tabitha. Then there is another lady in Nairobi. They were staying in Nairobi all the time. Called Wamboi. Wamboi was named the mother of Julia. And she was in Nairobi even during emergency. She was married by Wanjama. Wanjama is a brother to Gashadi, who was in education.
Okay.
And then there is another lady also called Wairimu also, and from Banana. So that is the Juria family. Then that one is Jeff's grandmother. Okay. The Joyce. And Joyce, I have told you, I've narrated mostly about the Joyce family, how they went Karoga.
That's now Fred's mother.
Yeah, Fred's mother. And now those three wives, they came with Koinange from the settled area. When he was chased, he came with 3 wives and a few children. But after that, he married 2 other wives. The 4th wife he married was from Kijabi. He married her. Before the marriage, you pay dowry and finish everything, then you make a day for going for the wife. When they were waiting to go for the wife died. Dowry, yeah. So they said now they cannot give her sister because it's not customary. You cannot marry your wife's sister. So they got another girl from the same family, so they can avoid returning the dowry. So, and when Koinange land is that, she's getting somebody else, she also paid another dowry.
Okay.
She paid a dowry, and after some time, before she went for the wife, she died again.
Again? Well?
She died. So now there are the two girls who have died.
He's paid two
they have
dowries?
two dowries to turn. So what happened? They took a girl, a young girl, about less than 10 years old. They gave it to Koinange because they don't want
Let her
die.
grow.
Let her grow. So she came and Koinange took her to her sister called Priscilla Diko. So the Priscilla, Koinange that time there were schools and all, so he educated her in the school. When she became 26 years, she moved in as now Koinange's fourth wife. Yeah.
Okay.
That, of course, now the fifth wife is my mother. My mother also came from a very rich family because the Karura Forest, the forest between Nairobi and Kikuyu land, was owned by three people.
Okay.
My grandfather, Naroba Gashie, who is of the Kihara family, and another one from Kabete area. All that, they owned that land. And
Karura Forest.
Yeah, they had left it there. So Maasai would not be, the Maasai didn't know how to fight in the forest.
Okay.
So when the Maasai come to the forest, they can't cross.
They're stuck.
Yeah. So it was like a boundary for them and for boundary for all other Kikuyus on the other side. So, and when Koinange was marrying my mother, he made a road from here up to Mushada. My mother is from Mushada. Those people you hear singing Nawaganago, they are my mother's nephews.
Mushada.
Yeah, Mushada.
Okay.
Ganango's
The singers.
The singer, the real name is Daruba. And Daruba is my grandfather. I have even a brother called Daruba. So he made a road all the way so he can push a cart carrying kuni to go.
An ox cart.
Yeah, ox cart to go and slaughter Goima in Mushada. So, and now in our family we are 7, and one of them. Yeah.
Okay.
The Joyce family is where the former MP came from. She was son of Karoga, Noah Karoga. And of course, we were happy that she became, but of course, she died he died during the COVID. Yeah. So I don't know. I think I've gone through.
So that is the narrative.
Wife, the sixth
narrative
wife,
on the family.
Yeah, the sixth wife was died also early, very early. She had only one child.
All right.
And the parents were like handlers of Koinange. The second wife, Dakwera Shianashiake, I told you the first was John Bio. John Bio. The second, James, I've mentioned James. There is their brother we are named the same, Karoga. He's the one who used to be principal Kenyatta University. The first son, John Bio, daughter, he had only 2 children. In fact, John Bio was taken in detention.
Supposedly for having given the gun.
Yeah.
The gun that killed
and the wife was also taken in. And the children were also taken into detention.
Okay.
Because they went to stay with the auntie. They couldn't stay with the auntie. So they were taken they had only 2 children. They were taken to detention. They grew and they even went to school in Marsabit. Yeah. In detention. And now that girl later was married to Mhoho. Yeah, Kamau Mhoho. So the third wife who is now Jeff's grandmother, had Frederick, Jeff's father, Frederick, was named again. Joyce had another son called Bio. And Bio, when they moved here, because of the IDP, Bio died. Bio and Kihara died. So Koinange lost 2 children by the moving from Wazungu to here. So Bio, the father of Jeff, was named again, was born again. So and Bio is also married to Goima family. Jeff, in fact, his Jeff name is Maura. Maura Goima. They are from Gidega, as you had the mother said. Then there was their sister who didn't die, called Margaret. Margaret was married to Geshau.
Geshau?
Yeah, Geshau, who used to be in the Power and Lighting.
The Power and Lighting man, yeah, okay.
Yeah, but they divorced later. And I think I've mentioned all the family now.
Were you old enough to see the parliament here?
No. No.
You never saw any evidence
not old enough
of
to
the
even know
Kiambaa parliament?
my father well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not old enough to know my father well. So, I mean, in that time, it's not like their children, or this.
Yeah.
Yeah, who are very sharp in computers and all that.
Yeah.
That time, you are not allowed to go near the fire. Go to mucus around.
Kimira.
Yeah. But of course, I can remember my father had a Vono bed. You know, a spring bed.
Yes.
So he used to put the children when they're there.
Okay.
So if you are that child, that's all you can remember. Yeah.
That's it. In this project, we would like to thank a number of people. Would like to thank Mary Mbio, who suggested the idea that we take Karuga as an encyclopedia, of the Koinange family, and do this project to record the history of the family and their trajectory from the time of colonialism to what they are today. We would like to thank Jeff for organizing the entire arrangement to do the recording. Above all, we would like to thank the narrator. The narrator is the encyclopedia. Karuga Koinange is the last born of the Koinange family, of Senior Chief Koinange. We would like to thank him for opening his encyclopedia to the world. And we hope to move a few steps to actualizing the final product, which will be a history and filling of the gap of the role of the Koinange family in the struggle for independence and the ongoing issues that remain to rearrange recognition and the naming of persons who made it happen in Kenya. Thank you very much.